Yourself and your wonderful band.
Mark Osageda from Death Angel.
How does it feel being on the road, crossing the U.S., getting into Canada at such a late stage in the game?
You know, it feels wonderful, to tell you the truth. We were so curious and yet excited about this one. We hadn't toured the U.S. in 18 years. You know, we've been to Europe many times since we've reformed, and we played actually Canada one show in Toronto for the Art of Dying tour, so it was 4.5 years ago we played, but it was just a one-off. And this, I mean, when we saw the itinerary and saw the Canadian dates, we all were just like, yes, yes. You know, I mean, in all honesty, we tend to have a better response, a more honest, sincere response from, you know, countries outside the U.S. We really do, and always kind of have. So, I mean, it was wonderful doing the U.S. part, but we were always definitely looking forward to these dates in a big way.
Very cool. I've seen a few promo shots with you know, a couple of you guys wearing Cro-Mag shirts.
Yes, we go back to, you know, when it comes to us, that's one thing we always kind of incorporate in our sound, is like the kind of the hardcore punk, you know, attitude and element. And we just thought that you know, Cro-Mag's, GBH, their style of Discharge, their style of playing was just kind of so percussive and in your face that, you know, that's always going to inspire our music. You know, Harley's actually coming to the New York show, which is the last night, so we're trying to get him up to get on stage and play a song with them.
That'd be awesome.
Or him. Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
People, I mean, still discuss Act 3 as having been ahead of its time. Have you discussed the experience of putting that album together briefly, and, you know, how you feel that it impacted your career and your image?
I think it was kind of the culmination of something we were striving for. As soon as we, you know, I mean, obviously Ultraviolence was a pure thrash album from beginning to end, but then we started growing as musicians, and Frog Through the Park kind of was that, a bunch of, you know, young guys getting better at their instruments and listening, you know, their minds being expanded by different types of music, and we tried to put as many sounds into one album as possible. And I think because of that, you know, Frog Through the Park to me is a little sporadic or inconsistent, but, you know, the ironic thing is I find so many people to this day that say that that's their favorite album, and that's, you know, in all honesty, that's cool to me. That's just like, they get it, they get what we were doing at the time. I think by the time we hit Act 3, we hit our stride, you know, and we toned down just trying to force, you know, different sounds in there, and I think it was just much more well-rounded. We were fortunate enough that by that point we were picked up by Geffen Records, so we were on a, you know, a major, and we had a major label budget, which definitely helped in the, you know, the recording process. So we had a lot more time to write the songs. We wrote about 30 songs for that album and picked out the best ones, and spent a lot of time with pre-production with just ourselves. And then, you know, we had the budget to work with Max Norman, who, you know, he produced Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, and that in general, you know, was the clincher. We're just like, yes. So after that, you know, he came in for pre-production, and we literally worked with him, I think, for, geez, at least 2-3 weeks on pre-production, and he worked the hell out of us, you know. And then when we got in the studio, same thing, you know. But he was just such, you know, he had such an ear for what we were doing, and, you know, and it was amazing, you know. And I do think, you know, it might have been a little ahead of its time. We pushed the envelope. We definitely did, you know, the acoustic songs with the vocal harmonies and whatnot, which a lot of thrash bands were definitely not doing, or to this day still aren't doing. So, I mean, you know, it was just, it was an amazing time to be around, but at the same time, it was our final album. You know, we broke up at basically the height of our career, which to a certain degree, I think, kind of saved the legacy of the band to a certain degree, because there was always this kind of mystique about it, you know. And a lot of bands, I think, carried on past that, and to a certain degree beat a dead horse and switched the genre that they originally started in. It didn't necessarily grow, just kind of changed to a more, I don't know, intense version of what that genre was, and kind of lost their roots. And I think that didn't really happen with us. We were fortunate enough that, you know, we broke up. Now we're fortunate that we're back together.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that was just, you know, by that point, when we had broken up, we knew we closed the books on Death Angel, and did, you know, and we'd all pursued different musical, you know, ventures and whatnot, but all of us trying to stay clear of anything basically thrash metal. Just, you know, we wanted to find a different identity, and, you know, in all honesty, when, you know, when we broke up Death Angel, it died with us, and we never thought it was going to, you know, come to re-fruition, if you will. And
Yeah.
here we are now, and enjoying it more than ever, to tell you the truth.
People think you guys have been gone for 5 years. While Rob put out a solo record.
Yeah.
His first. I mean, do you know what extent he's going to pursue that?
It's really hard, because everyone does have, I have a side project, Ted does as well, and, Rob's got a solo one, but right when he finished, completing it, is right when we started writing for, Killing Season, and basically, Death Angel is the mothership, and when she calls, we all, come running, basically. And seems like, for this one, we're going to do the most extensive touring we've done for any album, and so I think that everything kind of got pushed aside, but, I know you can get his, he hasn't even got distribution on it yet. He's talked to some people, but it hasn't even had time to really
in my eye
deal with that. And it's just Steve. He's a tech, and he had a tick in his eye this morning. And
I'm not a happy camper about it. Sorry for the interruption.
yeah.
All good.
And bar that. But his solo album, Lines on the Road, is available through his MySpace page to order it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You were supposed to come here, I believe it was last year, the year before, with Napalm Death, and I heard you lost tour support or something happened with the label and you dropped off the tour. Creator replaced you.
It was actually, the odd thing was, we were in discussions with it, but the band itself never confirmed. And we had, booking agents and managers that were overtly excited about it and kind of just jumped the gun before the actual band confirmed. So it was the band itself never confirmed it, and that's why it kind of was. It seemed as if we pulled off, but we never even jumped on.
Hey, cool.
Yeah.
Are you a big reader?
I read.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm big, but I'm reading again. I got a soft spot for it again. I used to be a big reader, then I was anti-reading, and now I'm reading again. So.
Okay. Last question I have for you is the following. Some of your lyrics take on a political slant.
Yeah.
What movements are you guys influenced by, either individually or as a group? What causes do the band support? What are your opinions on government and media control?
I think, it's odd because this is probably one of the first albums that we actually did some sort of kind of political, based lyrics. And, I wrote the majority of them. And I think, and the thing is, I'm not into forcing my opinion on anyone or pushing it. So I at the same time try to keep somewhat ambiguous about it, because I don't want to make anyone feel outcast from what we're actually doing. It's just a release for me, and people could tie their own meaning to it. So I mean, political beliefs right now, I just think it's just, at least in the States, in a huge way, it's just time for change, and it has been for 8 years. So I'll put it that way. And it's just it's been at an ugly place, and I think no more is it apparent. It was felt worldwide, obviously, and I think finally, even Middle America's getting it, and I'm under the assumption that there's only one way to go, but America's definitely surprised me more than once, or let me down with their choices. So that's where I'm gonna go with that one. As far as movements I'm behind, it's
Be honest.
be honest. I'm pro a woman's right to choose. There you go. But I mean, I'm not a big, political guy, as I said, and not forcing my opinion on anyone. It's just basically one thing I'll say. I'm big on is just, and it's not a political thing. It's truly about having one have the confidence to be themselves and not be embarrassed about it at all. Whether it's race, gender, sexuality, anything. I think you should be very proud of what you are, and anti any sort of violence towards any race, gender or sexual orientation whatsoever. That's what I'm militant about, actually.